Now with all the latest stories making the headlines this evening, it's the ITV News at 10.
A first for Charles III, but would it be the last for his Prime Minister?
I deliver this, the first King's speech in over 70 years.
The King continued centuries of tradition at the state opening of Parliament, but his speech was an attempt by Rishi Sunak to herald change.
We are focused on the long-term decisions that will provide a better and brighter future for everyone, and that's what this King's speech will deliver.
His 21 bills are tough on crime and smoking, keen on oil and gas, but left the Labour leader eyeing his chance at the job.
What we have before us is a plan for more of the same. More sticking plasters, more division, more party first, country second gimmicks.
Rishi Sunak promised a long-term plan, but is it enough to save him from a short-term premiership? Robert and Anushka will take us through it. Also tonight. 1 month of war, Israeli forces enter the heart of Gaza City on the anniversary of the Hamas terrorist attacks. Rohit's been to the West Bank, where gated communities can't contain the conflict between Israeli settlers and Palestinians.
Don't have any empathy for them.
Not for kids, not for kids in the hospitals.
What is this kid? This kid, if he has a father, his father was killing us.
Did Boris Johnson really propose injecting himself with COVID on live TV? The latest claim to come from the inquiry. And the sky at night as no telescope has ever seen it before.
This is ITV News at 10 with Paul Brand.
Good evening. The King will no doubt have future openings of Parliament to preside over. Rishi Sunak will be hoping his first King's speech won't be his one and only. The Prime Minister used it to set out the policies he plans to help him win the general election a year or so from now. Surprises? There weren't many. Mr Sunak did, though, create a clear division with Labour over crime and energy. Parliament was treated to the sight of the King, a lifelong environmentalist, announcing his government's support for new oil and gas fields, a line His Majesty just about managed to deliver deadpan. In the parliamentary to and fro that followed, Mr Sunak talked repeatedly of change. Labour's Sir Keir Starmer said what he'd heard was just a plan for more of the same. Well, the speech itself was historic, being the King's first as monarch, but will its contents go down in political history? What's not included is almost as interesting as what is, and Anushka's been looking at what the speech tells us about the direction of the Sunak government as it heads towards an election. Anushka.
The speech itself wasn't short. It was actually the longest in almost 20 years, but interestingly, it had the fewest pieces of legislation since 2014. And folk in Downing Street tell me that is about the looming election. Rishi Sunak wants to be seen as someone who delivers, and he has a deadline. So, generations. He insists he can win the next election, but this policy feels like a piece of legacy building in case the polls are right and he loses.
Interesting stuff, Anushka, thank you. And let's pick up on that now with Robert, who's also here. Robert, do you think this agenda that Rishi Sunak laid out today can be convincingly presented to the electorate as an agenda for change from a government that's been in power in one form or another for 13 years? Right, Robert, it feels like we're already heading into election season. And as you say, it is a year out. Robert, thank you. Thank you also to Anushka. And for the details of all 21 bills that made it into the King's speech, you can head to our website, itv.com/news. A month to the day since Israel threatened to wipe out Hamas after the October terrorist attacks, the Israeli military said tonight forces are now battling its fighters deep inside Gaza City. Heading out of Gaza, hundreds of Palestinians told to leave by Israeli forces on foot. Across Israel today, vigils were held to mark the anniversary and remember the lives lost. Well, Hamas attacks a month ago only served to inflame the existing constant tension and violence between Israeli settlers and Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. The area is a Palestinian territory that's been under Israeli occupation since the 60s. There are thought to be more than 700,000 Israeli settlers living in the West Bank. The extreme views of some reflect the violence, as we'll hear. There are already nearly 300 settlements, and the Israeli government is planning more, despite them being illegal under international law. 163 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank during the month of violence. Well, Rohit is in Tel Aviv for us tonight, as you can see, and we've seen, Rohit, in your report how deep and entrenched the anger is in the West Bank. So with this conflict a month old, is there any sign at all of where it goes next in Gaza and how it might end? OK, Rohit, from Tel Aviv, thank you very much. The head of London's Metropolitan Police has said there is not enough evidence about the risks from a pro-Palestinian protest to Armistice Day commemorations on Saturday to ban the protest. So Mark Rowley said as things stand, it will go ahead. In a separate development in Rochdale in Greater Manchester, the cenotaph there has been defaced. The local council says there was an incident yesterday when wreaths were damaged and another today when the war memorial was sprayed with graffiti. It is now being guarded by police. There have been some highly damaging assessments already at the COVID inquiry on what was going on behind the scenes in government. There was perhaps the strongest yet today. It came from the current head of the civil service. Simon Case said in messages at the time that he'd never seen such a bunch of people less equipped to run a country, including a Prime Minister who suggested injecting himself with COVID-19 on live TV. A 15-year-old boy was fatally stabbed this afternoon close to a school in Leeds. It happened in the suburb of Horsforth shortly before 3 o'clock. Another teenager has been arrested. The victim was a former pupil of Horsforth School, near where the stabbing took place. The attempt by Captain Sir Tom Moore's family to tack a home spa onto a building dedicated to his foundation has come spectacularly unstuck. They've been told they'll have to pull it down by council planners. The family have lost their appeal against the decision, even though they said it could be used by older people for exercise therapy. To an awards ceremony now featuring royalty and celebrities with a bit more consequence than most. Prince William, accompanied by a stand-in Kate, that's the film star Kate Blanchett, has handed out his £1 million Earthshot prizes in Singapore for repairing the damage done by climate change. There were 5 winners, ranging from solar-powered food preservers to cleaner electric car batteries. The Prince said they all showed there was still hope. Certainly puts today's political events into some perspective. Amazing, amazing images. That is all from this evening. From everyone here on the News at 10 team, have a very good night.
Tomorrow, statistics to make your